President Biden decided to attack into Mother Russia with ATACMS because he thought it was going to influence the course of the war. I think the Biden administration understands the ATACMS just don't matter that much in terms of influencing the course of the war. I think that President Biden is very concerned about the possibility that Ukraine may collapse on the battlefield before he leaves office. What President Biden wants is for Ukraine to lose the war on Donald Trump's watch, not on his watch. So I think that by using ATACMS, he thought that he could increase the chances on the margins that Ukraine will hang on until January 20th. Furthermore, I think Biden, once he leaves office, wants to be able to say, I did everything possible to help the Ukrainians. And giving them ATACMS or allowing them to use ATACMS to attack Mother Russia will allow him to say, after he's done being president, that he did everything possible to help the Ukrainians. He gave them everything they wanted. So I see this as basically a case of Biden protecting his own reputation. Because again, I don't think it's going to affect the outcome at all. Now, the second question on the ATACMS is, what is the downside? I actually think there's not much of a downside. I think it was a mistake to use the ATACMS. There's going to be some escalation, and I don't think that's good. But my view is that Putin has two goals. His first goal is to win on the battlefield, number one, and two, to avoid World War III with nuclear weapons. It's very important to understand that Putin has no interest in seeing this war escalate, and he has no interest in seeing nuclear weapons being used. Putin has an interest in winning the war against Ukraine and the West inside of Ukraine and getting a settlement that's favorable to Russia. And at the same time, again, avoiding a general thermonuclear war, or indeed any nuclear use. So, if you have a situation where these ATACMS don't matter very much, they don't matter very much in terms of what the outcome is going to be, and at the same time, Putin doesn't want to see this war escalate, I think that Putin will retaliate. He will escalate, but only in a minor way. He'll be very, I think, discreet, very careful in how he escalates, because it's in his interest to be very careful. So I don't think there's much of a downside here to these ATACMS being used, because again, they're not very effective.
So the main idea, the main strategy of Putin is to have victory on the battlefield with using conventional weapon, only conventional weapon. Maybe it will take a time, but we are ready for that. We are trying to adjust our economy, our society, our political system to this long war with use of the conventional weapon against the West in the Ukraine until we consider that we could stop. So we consider, not anybody else could suggest us to stop. So that is precisely that. And that is the main goal, I would say, to have the victory or to put the control over Ukraine or the part of Ukraine, eastern part of Ukraine, that we consider to be legitimate restoration of our security around our core territory. And that's at the same time, as well, once more, I agree that Putin is not going to use a nuclear weapon and will try to avoid, as long as it is possible, escalation. So it is not his intention. It is a kind of something imposed on us escalation. We are not initiators of the escalation, so he will try to avoid the escalation. But I think that there are as well red lines. Nevertheless, there are some red lines that could oblige Putin to react. He is very unwilling not to do that, but just to think about that. He is not willing, but he could be put in the situation that he will not have any possibility to avoid use of nuclear weapons. So when the people in the West say never Putin will use nuclear weapon, they are wrong. If you insult and attack Putin's Russia too much, so it could be possible. He will try to avoid that. Okay, but not he will be. That is not valid for everything that could happen until Trump comes to office. So there is very dangerous moment, I would say. So, and we shouldn't underestimate the danger of this moment, because in critical situation, for example, if ATACMS could reach some really sensible point in Russian territory, and it could, or maybe the other long-range missile could. So I think that could be of some very serious response, in spite of the will of the Putin, and in spite of our plan A and B, that all our plans are, I can assure you, you are not obliged to believe me, but all our interests are limited by Ukraine and nothing more. Nothing more. Not now and not in the future. So Mr. Measher is totally right. He's totally right about our absence of the will and absence of the capacity to enlarge our influence beyond some limits that we consider to be realistic. And we didn't yet reach these limits that we consider to be realistic. And that is why we are still fighting, and we will fight more and more until the moment comes when we consider that we have reached some limits of our national interests.